Hello lovely viewers and welcome to Get Well Stay Well on Revelation TV. You're joined by me, Cyrus, and of course we're delighted to be joined by lovely Felicity. How are you doing?
Hi there, I'm doing really well and I'm breathing nice and slowly. And you know, the breathing is the most important thing that we do in our life and we don't really think about it very much. But today I've got a super program on really getting our breathing nice and calm and deep to oxygenate the whole body.
How influenced are we from our breathing? How does that influence our body, the body chemistry and everything else going on?
Well, it alters everything, you know, when we get stressed, as we might if we were presenting a lovely program on television. We get stressed, and if we're not used to calming ourselves down, we might be hyperventilating. People need to really calm down because we live in such a polluted and stressed world. So I think today's program is really going to help people, and we have a lovely Dr. Belisa who specializes in teaching people, really re-educating people on breathing and understanding, because as we get older, you know, we start breathing differently. As children, we breathe into the tummies. You see their little tummies go up and down as they breathe.
Yes.
And then we start, you know, standing up straight, pulling the tummy in as we do. And suddenly we're breathing up in the chest. It's shallow breathing.
And how influenced are we of breathing during stressful situations? How can we avoid being stressed? By controlling our breathing, perhaps? Can that happen?
Well, it's a good idea to do that, because as soon as you feel yourself stressed, the thing is to remember, you know, I'm much bigger than the situation, and my body is going to be okay. We're going to survive the situation, and we start automatically putting ourselves into that special kind of breathing. Actually, I learned a lot about this when I had my 3 babies, and we did something called psychoprophylaxis. This is years ago, and it's sort of natural childbirth, where you control your breathing and your thoughts and the way you're trying to produce this baby, and it does make a huge difference with the breathing. We did A-level, B-level, C-level and D-level breathing, which you followed through the labor, and it really did help. And so I was so impressed with that I thought I must start using this technique, you know, in ordinary life.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we ignore the most important things that we do in life, don't we? We don't really think about drinking water. We don't think about the way we're breathing.
Do we take our health for granted sometimes? It seems that we're so focused on everything else going on around, everything else is a priority. Sometimes we just don't take that time and think about our own health.
Totally, totally, we do. And it's like exercise, you know, everyone pays it lip service and says, oh yes, you should exercise, but do we actually say, right, the next half hour I'm going to go out in the fresh air and I'm going to exercise? Well, I don't, for a start. It's awful. And I live in a flat, I come down in the lift, I walk out on concrete, get in the car, drive down here, make the program with you, and reverse goes back up. And I haven't been out in the fresh air exercising at all. And you're stuck in here 24 hours a day virtually. So, you know, we don't look after ourselves, but perhaps today we'll start to make us think about that.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to today's topic, and I hope you are as well. So let's have a look at our first video, and this is talking about breathing exercises. But before we watch this video, let's take a nice deep breath and watch this video now.
Are you using all your lungs? It may seem counterintuitive, but we're going to start with the exhale. Take a normal breath, meaning one exactly like the one just before you started listening to this. Don't make this one better because you're now paying attention. I just want you to simply notice how you take in air until you meet some resistance in the inhale and stop. Then your exhale is really just a letting go. Notice how passive this is. Now imagine, if you can, how much air you're taking in. The average is about 12 ounces or a cup and a half. If you had to measure the amount of air you inhale and exhale, it might be even less. Maybe it would be half a cup or a few tablespoons, especially if you're sitting and concentrating in a way that you're completely disconnected from your body, like at a computer or driving. Your inhale and exhale are not the same mechanism in reverse order. Your inhale is governed primarily by the flattening out and expanding of a muscle called the thoracic diaphragm, which pulls in air. But if you're a chest breather like most people, your diaphragm is underutilized and probably out of shape. Your exhale is probably very passive. You just stop inhaling and let the air out as you would a balloon, which means that you're not using any of your exhalation muscles either. Do this right now. Exhale to the place where you would normally stop. And after a pause, really exhale consciously, squeezing out all the air and contracting your entire middle. Notice how much air was left from your normal lazy exhale compared to the more enthusiastic one. Think of all the space that you could fill with clean air if you exhaled just a little bit more each time. To gain awareness of how dysfunctional this breathing actually is, continue another 4 or 5 breaths like this, having your exhale be only a fraction of your inhale. Notice how it's possible to continue breathing in this manner, barely exhaling, having it feel normal. Lazy posture, bad habits, accommodating an injury, it would be easy to fall into the trap of breathing this way. Now do the math. You've been breathing this way for months, maybe years. When you inhale, despite feeling as though you're taking a deep breath, the actual exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide is completely out of balance, and your inhale and exhale are without a doubt out of balance as well. From chest breathing to belly breathing. Chest breathing contributes to neck and shoulder pain since it uses muscles on the top half of your body not intended to be major breathing muscles. Relearning to breathe is the goal, not learning new techniques that will take weeks. It's just about reminding your body how it used to breathe, how it wants to breathe. The most efficient breathing happens from your chest down. The bottom half of your ribcage moves, your belly expands. Eventually your sides expand, even your back expands. However, you have to start by teaching yourself to belly breathe. Keep in mind that no one expects you to continue jutting out your belly with each inhale. This is just a way to start reconditioning your body. So although you should start focusing on your belly now, know that the end goal is that your entire middle expands in a more subtle way, at the same time contracting a lot more in the exhale. The good news is both these movements work your core, so that better breathing, even the expanding part, will lead to stronger abs and core muscles as well as better oxygenation. All of this does make sense anatomically. When you breathe through the lower part of your body, expanding your middle, your sides, and your back, your diaphragm flattens out and pushes your bottom ribs out. This is not only a more efficient breath, it helps tremendously with keeping your abdominal organs, which are right underneath your diaphragm, moving and healthy.
It's some brilliant breathing techniques and exercises there. And it's like we always say, Felicity, sometimes we take breathing, we take our life for granted, we take our health for granted, and we take breathing for granted as well.
Yes, we do. And it's so important to just rethink it again. And, you know, we alter the heart rate, the oxygen that's getting into the body, because all our cells need oxygen, you know, we sort of think, well, it's just our lungs need the oxygen, but in fact, it's every cell in the body needs oxygen, needs hydrogen, and we can alter our whole health with our breathing. And I was talking with a very interesting Dutch researcher who's just come to live here as well. Very interesting man. We might try and get him on one of our programs. And he was saying how it's every illness, every disease can stem from bad breathing. Isn't that interesting? So he's been lecturing all around the world, in America, South America, all over Europe, and he's just come to live here in Spain. So I went and had a session with him myself, and it was just really interesting. He does the live and dried blood microscopy, which is interesting. So
I mean, we often talk about health on our program, but this is the first time we're hearing the real seriousness of breathing. Sometimes we take it for granted, and we really don't realise the knock-on effects, so to speak, of how, if we're not breathing in the right way, how it can affect and create some illnesses within our body.
And as this Dr. Belisa was just saying, you know, we should really practice, you know, take half an hour to just practice the breathing. And then every now and again, when we're working at the computer or whatever we're doing, you know, just take a minute to say, right, let's have a proper breath, let's shoulders down, you know, and get the back straight, because bad posture, of course, closes all the lungs down. And we need to do this belly breathing so that we're actually using the diaphragm. And of course, once you start practicing it, using that diaphragm muscle again, consciously, you breathe so much better. And so it's really like having a a glass of water virtually, and really oxygenating the cells, and then you feel so much better.
So our posture is so important. We don't even realise sometimes we can be working at our desks. We can be quite hunched.
Yes.
Whereas if we've got a nice, solid, rock solid posture,
Yes.
that is so important, because that will also influence the way that we're breathing as well.
You will laugh, because back at home, I have a football in my study. And
Oh,
you think,
yes.
why on earth has Granny got a football in the study? And it's to put behind my back. And you'll be surprised if people just tuck the football in there at the back. It will absolutely straighten you up.
Wow.
So, and it does relieve back pain if people have got back pain as well. So, you know, this is a huge subject. We could do lots of programs.
Give
on
us
this.
a very simple breathe. I know we've seen some techniques in the previous video. Give us a very simple breathing technique and exercise that our viewers can be doing right now as they're watching this program.
Well, a lovely one is to breathe in, to inhale for 4, count of 4, to hold it, that means block and hold it for 7, and then breathe out for 8.
Wow.
So you can build up to that. If people are very cramped, they probably won't be able to do that right to start with.
Okay.
But to breathe in for 4, and hold it for 7, 6, 7, and then out. And also you can feel the tummy working as well, to make the tummy actually use these muscles as well.
Yeah.
But my word, it transforms our lives.
And how often should we be doing these breathing exercises?
Whenever we think about it, Si. And because you and I work so hard, that's probably not very often, but you know, when you're sitting there, you feel, oh gosh, I'm a bit cramped, you know.
Yeah.
Do your breathing exercises.
Yeah.
And especially when you're going to sleep at night, this
Yes.
is another good time to
Yeah.
slow everything down. And of course, you turn all the Wi-Fi off, and then you start breathing in for 4, holding for 7, and then breathing out. And it will relax you. And it's nature's way, you know. I think this comes from millennia and millennia. You think of the yogis up in the mountains in the Himalayas. They were doing this years and years ago. And we've all thought we were so smart with our sophisticated drug-based medicine, you know, and people taking sleeping pills and antidepressants and things. In fact, all you have to do is get out there in the fresh air, commune with nature and God, and breathe.
Yeah. Interesting, very interesting.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to people, or any of the viewers maybe watching today who suffer from asthma? They have to constantly use their inhalers. They have problems when they go out into the street with all the pollution that's out there on the air pollution and everything else. What would you give to them?
Well, I've got something really good. If they get a nebulizer, which is a little oxygen machine that we've shown before, where you actually nebulize. In the hospital, they'll give you Ventolin and things, but you can actually nebulize oil of magnesium mixed with water, and that has the most amazing effect, because it will relax the whole respiratory system going down to the lungs. So if you think, you know, magnesium relaxes the body.
Yeah.
So that's my favorite thing at the moment. I've got a nebulizer, and because I've had breathing issues, it's wonderful. And I tell parents, you know, if they have an asthmatic child, do get a nebulizer, because then you can handle all the dramas at home. You don't have to rush to the hospital every time. Obviously, if there's a big chest infection, then you would. You'd be safer going to hospital. But for just ordinary asthma and colds and, you know, being clogged up, to do the nebulizer at home, it's not a very expensive machine to buy. And I have had one sent to me in Jersey. I've had one sent to me here. And it's very simple, and you just put the liquid in the bowl of the little machine and switch it on, and it buzzes, and you get this vapor coming into the mask, and it really does help, because magnesium relaxes. So another thing for people to do is take magnesium in a...
Now, we're constantly talking about keeping our children healthy all the time. What advice would you give to our children who may be suffering from asthma or breathing difficulties, but we want them to be staying active, we want them to be doing exercise? Where is that balance, that they're obviously not overdoing the exercise because they've got to be cautious of their asthma or breathing? Where is that balance there, Felicity?
Well, you know, some of the triathletes and the marathon runners have got asthma. I think Mo Farah has asthma, actually. So we learn how to manage it, but you have to obviously open up the lungs first. So it's no good trying to go out and exercise if you're gasping for breath anyway. So it is a matter of addressing the cause of the asthma, which is always inflammation. So it's just inflammation in all the tubes going down into the lungs. And when we control that inflammation, then we will get rid of the asthma. But with the pollution in UK, I think there are 44 cities in UK now where it's really unhealthy to breathe the air. And these are the latest statistics, literally the last few weeks, which is pretty shocking. And Eastbourne is one of the places, you know, Eastbourne, we would think on the south coast, like breezy Brighton, you know, bright and breezy. So it is difficult, and it is so polluted now.
Now we know when we're doing exercise, our performance can improve the more exercise you do. So your stamina will increase. What about breathing? So we've been talking about asthma as an example. Maybe someone who is suffering from asthma, they want to go out running or walking, but they simply take a few steps and they're breathing quite heavily because of their asthma. If they were to do more regular exercises, would their asthma improve, and gradually they would have less use of an inhaler perhaps because they're exercising so frequently?
One would hope so, but of course it's very individual. It depends why they've got the asthma or the emphysema or the COPD, the chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, you know, in the first instance. So if people are breathless, then they really shouldn't be out exercising.
Yeah.
No.
And that's what I guess we always say before using changing your medication, changing inhalers. It's so important to be consulting your doctor. Work closely with your doctor, isn't it, Felicity? Without them saying, okay, I'm going to stop this inhaler, put it to a side, and I'm just going to start exercising. Whatever changes you make to your health, you've got to consult your doctor, don't you?
As long as it's a bright doctor who's up to date with nutrition and understands about vitamins and minerals, and if they just want to push drugs at you, then no, not a good idea. So choose your doctor carefully.
What about when we're talking about living longer life, and we're talking about breathing exercises and staying healthy? What advice would you give us today?
Well, you know, the Chinese have a saying that you only have so many breaths for this life, so the faster you breathe, the quicker you're going to meet your maker. So it is important to get your breathing nice and slow and have a healthy and long life. Yeah, it does make a difference. But
we go through stressful situations in our life every single day. We're in work and family and everything else, and we're stressed, and sometimes you might have some bad news and you might feel like a panic attack perhaps. How can you prepare yourself when those moments come into your life, that you can treat those moments with a little more peace?
Well, you have to have God in your life for a start, don't you? So you have God in your life, and you know, you see the bigger picture. It's like taking off on the plane, as I always say. You go through all the bumps and the clouds, and you get to the nice open blue sky, and then everything is peaceful and quiet. And so I try to get up to that level, which is forgetting all the things that are happening right next to you, you know, and just literally going up a level. And I think God wants us to do that, not get too embroiled in all the stress down here.
So when we're talking about panic attacks, because some people suffer from panic attacks, that's the reality.
Certainly.
And sometimes they panic about having a panic attack.
Yes.
What advice would you give to them to prepare themselves mentally? Because sometimes we have so many things going on in our minds, and we're very influenced of what goes on in our minds. So the last thing you want to be doing is worrying about having a panic attack.
Well, you want to have a scripture in mind. You want to have something that you can hang on to. I will not die but live and proclaim what the Lord has done, for instance, Psalm 117 verse 18, which is my favorite scripture. And this will calm you down. But you know, if you haven't got the right minerals, magnesium, selenium, all these minerals and vitamins in your body, of course, your mind is not going to be healthy if you haven't got the right building blocks in body and mind. So the first thing is to get your immune system up, to get your health well. Take lots of vitamin C, for instance, especially through the winter, and build up your immune system so that you are in optimum health. And then if something does go wrong, you have an accident or you get ill, then you're more likely to be able to recover quickly. So it's important to always be building up the health, which is what we try to teach people on Get Well, Stay Well.
And we're talking about staying healthy, and we're talking about lovely recipes. There are delicious recipes out there for us as well, aren't
There
there?
certainly are, and one of my favorites is a gorgeous soup, because I think, especially when the weather's cold, or if people are trying to lose weight and they want to just have something comforting in the evening, your soup is the thing to go for, definitely.
Okay, well, let's have a look at this here. This is tomato and parmesan soup in a NutriBullet. Let's have a look at this.
Nothing beats the cold like a big bowl of homemade soup. Today, I'm going to show you 3 of my very favorite recipes, and they're all totally vegetarian. I'm going to show you a delicious creamy tomato soup, a nice spiced carrot and ginger soup, and finally, a leek and potato soup that is extra hearty. I love them because they're all super simple to put together. Let's get started with our creamy tomato soup. Now for this recipe, I'm actually using fresh tomatoes. You don't have to, you can totally use canned whole tomatoes. Those will work just as well. But since I came across these beautiful fresh Roma tomatoes, I decided I had to put them to good use. So I'm going to throw them into our soup today. Not to worry about any chunks in any of these soups, they're all gonna be pureed either with an immersion blender or by your regular blender, so you don't have to sweat it. In a large saucepan, I've just got some oil heating up. Once it's hot, I'm going to add 1 small diced onion. I'm gonna cook this up until it's translucent, and then I'm going to add some garlic, about 2 cloves in this recipe. I'm not gonna pretend that I'm not cheating. I use the pre-minced garlic sometimes. Once the garlic is aromatic and delicious smelling, I'm going to add my chopped tomatoes. I'm gonna mix all these flavors together and just let the tomatoes start to break down for about 5 minutes or so. I've got a little bit of brown sugar for some sweetness and to cut through the acidity of the tomatoes. I also have some tomato paste, which is just gonna amp up that tomato flavor even further. Once these flavors are all mixed together, I'm going to add some vegetable broth. I'm using my homemade vegetable broth. You can use any kind of broth you like. So if you ever use real Parmesan in your cooking, you've probably ended up with one of these. This is the rind of the Parmesan. This is awesome for flavoring your soups. All I'm gonna do is pop it right into my soup. If you don't have a Parmesan rind lying around, don't sweat it. You can just use grated Parmesan. It's equally delicious, and it really makes tomato soup sing. We're gonna let this all come to a boil, and then we're gonna cover it, turn the heat down to low, and let it simmer for about 30 minutes or until those tomatoes have all broken down. So the first thing I'm gonna do is fish out my Parmesan rind, and look at what's happened. It's totally softened up. All the flavor has been stolen from it, which I love because we let nothing go to waste. The last step will just be adding a little bit of cream. Now you can totally skip this step if you don't do dairy, but if you want a nice creamy texture, this is the perfect way to achieve it. Once the cream is combined, we're gonna take our soup off the heat and then blend it all up. Now there's 2 ways to do this. The first is with an immersion blender like this. The other option is to use your traditional blender. But there are a couple really important things to keep in mind when you're using this technique. First things first, when you're blending hot liquids, you should only fill your blender up to halfway. Any more than that and you could totally cause an accident. Second thing is you need to leave a place for the hot steam to escape. I do this by removing the center of my blender lid. Another option is to just leave the lid slightly ajar so the air can escape. Otherwise, what can happen is the lid can blow right off and cause a very dangerous mess. I've got my kitchen towel on top, but I'm still letting the steam escape. If you have to puree your soup in batches, no big deal, do it that way. Once you're done, you return your soup to the pot, you can reheat it, and then we're just gonna garnish it with some fresh basil shreds.
Absolutely delicious there. Very, very tasty. And thank you for choosing that, Felicity.
That's nice, and the Parmesan cheese is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And you know, we talk about cheese being, you know, bad for us, but in fact, the Parmesan is very low fat, and it doesn't have any lactase in it either, which is really good.
Yeah.
So Parmesan's a good one to have if we're going to have a little bit of cheese to just make things a little more savory and delicious.
Yeah. It's because we talk about staying healthy and we talk about delicious recipes. It's not all about juicing all the time, but we can see those delicious fruits, vegetables and soups, especially during the winter months as well.
And tomatoes are really good for us, you know, because they've got lycopene in, they've got all the vitamins, A, B, C, D, E, all the vitamins you can imagine in there. The E is really important for the heart.
Yeah.
And I just love tomatoes. I bake the tomatoes and put a little breadcrumbs and onions and garlic on the top. So, you know, halve them, and then open them up and grill them like that with, or grill or bake, and they're absolutely lovely. Yeah. So you've got onions and garlic as well as the tomato. Really, really healthy
What
meal.
is your favourite soup out of all of them?
Oh, the favourite soup? Well, that varies according to the season, I think. Avocado I love. I adore gazpacho, of course, which is a special Spanish one. Again, tomatoes and good healthy things.
Yeah, so tomatoes, peppers, onions, garlic.
Yes. Loads and loads of garlic. And if we're feeling naughty, we can have a bit of garlic bread as well, which is wonderful, because garlic is such an anti-inflammatory, you know, it's like ginger.
Yeah.
These things are God's natural anti-inflammatories for us.
When we're talking about staying healthy and we're talking about buying the right foods, where are the best places, where should we be going to shop for our fruits, vegetables, our daily shopping?
Well, you can't do better than the farmers market, you know, especially the organic farmers market, which is on a Sunday. And I think that it's every weekend in an area near here. And these organic farmers come down with all their produce, and it really is beautiful and fresh. And I love to chat with them and try and improve my Spanish. And they're really good. And of course, we've
Do you ever order anything by mistake, thinking you've said something and they give you something?
Probably, yes. We won't go into that. No, never mind. We also have a new organic shop in La Cala, run by Alfonso and Alicia, who are, you see, I can say Alicia now instead of Alicia. So they're absolutely great, and I do have to speak Spanish there. So they are very kind and very patient with me, and they've got some wonderful stock in there. It's a little bit more expensive, but then you're not poisoning yourself by juicing the chemicals, which we are when we are juicing the vegetables and the fruit that's been sprayed with the herbicides, fungicides, whatever.
Felicity, we are coming towards the end of today's programme. If viewers wanted more information, have you got a website?
I have indeed, felicitycorbin-wheeler.org and hippocratesineurope.com. So there's two websites that actually go together, but different things on each, and one is more ministry.
Thank you also to our lovely viewers as well. Do remember, if you found this programme interesting, then please do log on to our website where we have a catch-up service. Log on to www.revelationtv.com. We're also on YouTube, so check out our YouTube page, youtube.com/RTV Europe. And we're also on Facebook, so you can like, share and comment on any of the items that we have on Facebook. Log on to facebook.com/Revelation TV. Viewers, thank you so much indeed for joining us today. Felicity, once again, for all the research and all the information you provided us, thank you.
It's great to be with you, Si. Thank you.
All right, viewers, we look forward to seeing you next time. Take care, God bless, and see you soon. Bye.